Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Welcome to the third installment of the People's Conversation put on by the new National Party. Tonight, or this evening, we are in the constituency of St. Patrick's East. The caretaker responsible for this on the new National Party side is Mr. Robert White. Please give a round of applause to Mr. White as he walks in. Our first panelist. Our second panelist hails from St. Patrick's West, Mr. Jelani Glean. Our third panelist hails from St. Andrews Northeast, the little powerhouse, Sister Kate Skeeter Lewis. And to lead the charge this evening is the political leader hailing from St. Andrews Southeast, political leader Emmeline Pear. Now, as we move along and we continue doing these town halls or these conversations, as I've repeatedly said from the first one, we are in drafting mode. And when you're in drafting mode, you don't draft once and stop. You draft continuously until something is perfect, until it answers every issue, every query that we all believe will bring us forward into the future. Today, we want to invite you to add your voice to the development of this manifesto. Come with your questions, your suggestions, your queries, your ideas. You want to hear them all. Help craft and design our way forward. We are all architects of the future of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and it is important to hear from you when we're doing so. Today's topic is youth. Very wide, very broad. There's a lot of things to discuss, I'm sure. There's a lot of ideas that you probably have. I see a lot of young faces here this evening. I'm happy to see that. But before we get into it, I normally like to make a couple comments. I want to first start off by giving a huge round of applause to the political leader and the candidates for months of tirelessly begging and asking this government to give some relief. It may be delayed, but we're very happy that it's happened. The political leader would have done it at Parliament, requested these things, requested some relief on the cost of living. And we're very happy, we welcome it, that action has been taken. Now to my young people, the ones striving to chart their way forward, the ones trying to land a job or find a job. My simple comments are this. It doesn't matter where you start, but it matters that you start. It matters that you first take a step forward. I'll repeat that my name is Dylan Charles. I'm an attorney by profession, a director in a party promotion group, a director in a mass band group, a director in a Monday night mass band group. I am the chairman of the tax tribunal, and all of that did not happen overnight. I started somewhere. Believe it or not, my first job was pumping gas at a petrol station in Grenville at the age of 15. It was not me going to court, being my first day on the job or anything like that. It was me starting pumping gas being of service to motor vehicle users. I learned a lot in that first job. I learned responsibility. I learned what service was, customer care, but being able to account for what I would have done or what I would have done wrong, positive or negative. I have made mistakes. I made mistakes in that role. Pumping diesel was one of them into a gasoline vehicle. I tell you that the fear, the cold sweat that came over me when I made that mistake, hoping that they didn't fire me, that I didn't become liable to repair or replace somebody's vehicle. Luckily, before $10 was pumped, we caught it. We had to basically drain the tank on the spot and had a mechanic come and look at it quickly to make sure that nothing else was damaged. But again, I would have learned some valuable lessons through my role as a pump attendant. And now I stand here, the leader of one of the biggest firms and probably the most prestigious firms in Grenada. I didn't get there overnight. I didn't get there by any gold spoon or links or anything. I got there through continuously showing up, hard work, accountability, and showing that when someone gave me the chance, I was going to be responsible and be accountable to everyone and anyone that came and wanted me to work on their behalf. I say all that to say is that a lot is being said about our youth today. A lot of people are saying our youth are lazy, they are not hardworking, they are not disciplined. I don't see that. I myself was a young person. I still consider myself a young person, by the way. I'm not up there in age just yet. But I want to encourage you to start somewhere, to be accountable to yourself. It is okay to have fears, it's okay to have the jitters, but it matters that you take that first step forward. But enough from me. Let us get our welcoming remarks from Brother Robert White, the candidate for St. Patrick's East.
Good night, everybody. And how are you doing? Good. You seem very happy to be in St. Patrick, all of you. Me too. Right? So my dear sisters and brothers from the various villages in St. Patrick East, as well as our neighbors from St. Patrick West, Brother Glynn, and other visitors from some of the other constituencies who took the opportunity to join us here tonight, I say again, welcome. I would like to say to you that I entered politics with one objective: to help my people and my country to do better. Thank you. Now, I spent close to 4 decades in the insurance industry, and I did reasonably well, if you ask me. So I could have continued in that vein and do well for myself, or continue to do well for myself. But I answered the call to serve at the national level and help Grenada and all Grenadians to do better. That's my ambition. So what have I learned over the last 5 months? I learned that there is a marked similarity between selling insurance and the political life. And that was very revealing. Because to be successful at selling insurance, or actually in both endeavors, you must have the following attributes. You must possess the skill of observation. You must be good at observing. And you must also be a very good listener. I want to repeat that. You must have good observation skills, and you must be a very good listener. These are two prerequisites that work well for your success in both the insurance industry and political life. So as I journeyed around my constituency, I have observed the following: that there is a need for sustained employment, especially among the youth. That there is still a great demand for housing. That young persons are interested in small businesses and are seeking access to capital at rates more competitive than what currently exists. And young persons are interested in non-traditional ways of generating income via the internet, in areas such as cryptocurrencies, foreign exchange trading, the stock market trading. But they need the guidance in navigating the sometimes turbulent waters presented by unknowingly engaging with unscrupulous players in these markets. I've met persons who ask me how to become a player in the entertainment industry, and how do they use their God-given skill and talents to provide them with an income so that they can take care of themselves, and that they, by extension, they could also take care of others who depend on their income. Now, these engagements have been extremely open and frank. And I have come to the position that our Grenadian people are resilient, that our Grenadian people are industrious, and given the right opportunity and support, our people can thrive. Our people and our country can do extremely well. And I think that deserves a round of applause. Yeah? So let's speak on the issue of sustained employment. Now, how do we tweak our education system to deliver and at this point, we acknowledge the presence of our sitting MP for the St. Mark constituency, Honorable Clarice Modest Cohen. One of the powerful ladies, not just in Grenada, or in the NNP, sorry, but certainly in Grenada politics in total. And for that, I ask you to give her a round of applause once again. Thank you for joining us, Madam. So on the issue of sustained employment, how do we tweak our education system to deliver or prepare persons for the opportunities for personal development outside of the study hard, get good grades, and you will get a good paying job? Some young persons, and even some not so young persons, are excited over non-traditional opportunities who work and earn. They are not too keen on the 9-to-5 grind. So, how do we now tweak our market to ensure that there's inclusion rather than excluding or alienating persons like that? In the entertainment business, persons also ask me, how could I get into business of entertainment? They like the lure of the thrill and the performances, and I immediately identify with that. I've spent over 40 years, well, close to 40 years in the entertainment business myself. And there are opportunities to earn, but we need to provide the enabling infrastructure to support the efforts. So we need to create this infrastructure that assists with talent management. Right? The Calypsonians would understand well the deficit in that area, because sometimes you have to have booking agents and all of that to help you with your craft. Stage management. Our dear chairman is someone, chairman of tonight's activity, is involved in an entertainment business, and he would tell you the importance of proper stage management, the importance of lighting and sound technicians, makeup artists, nutritionists, and you know that, etc., etc., etc. Sisters and brothers, I don't want to bore you too much, but these are some of the areas that I have found that were very interesting. People spoke about all other things, but these were like kind of new concepts that persons are interested in. And so, if we must build, in my opinion, a better Grenada where these ideas are transformed into everyday reality, as opposed to just ideas presented or discussed at a town hall meeting, we have to decide that we need to take this country, open it, so that these opportunities can exist and flourish. Brothers and sisters, if we can do that and do that well, or let me say that different. When we start doing that and doing that well, we within the NNP, I certainly believe that Grenada will flourish because it is ours to build. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Robert. You just touched on the iceberg of what truly involves entertainment. Entertainment covers a lot, not just stage management. It covers persons, food vendors, chefs, security, the road managers for the artists, the managers, hairstylists, the barbers, the clothing boutiques. There's so many persons, businesses that are touched by entertainment, which is why Spice Mass is so important to the economy of Grenada, and why we have to ensure that we are prepared to welcome all the guests, not just in St. George's, but right around the island. Our culture is not concentrated in any place. Quite frankly, we're actually in the Crown City. Am I mistaken? I believe this is the city that has the most Soca Mona crowns. Give it up to yourselves. We call it Crown City for a reason, and it's, if I may place my bets, it may sound like it's going back to St. Patrick's on the groovy side. But I also want to touch on concern something else before I introduce the next speaker. Last week, we would have touched on the infrastructure of the country, not just houses, but infrastructure. That means the road work around here. Now, when this government came into power, I had to traverse between St. George's to the St. Patrick's Magistrate Court a couple times. I think in probably November of 2022 was the first time I came up. The road was cut. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of road work going on from Grenville to St. Patrick's. The next time I came up here was probably June 2023. Same thing. I said, all right, hopefully by the end of the year, that road fixed. I think the next court date I had was somewhere in the first couple of months, probably March of 2024. Again, the road was still in the same deplorable condition. Coming to the end of the matter, which took me somewhere to the end of 2024, I noticed some places being patched. We are in 2026, and between Grenville and Setters, there are so many big potholes. I don't even know if some of them you could call potholes. There just might be squares in the road at this point that cut out, and motorists either have to take their time or their mechanic bill is quite high at this point in time. So while we see and welcome what is happening in terms of cost of living, I want to challenge this government to answer the prayers of every motorist, not just between Grenville and Setters, but around the entire island where they have upset and begun construction on the infrastructure of the country. We challenged them to give us the cap value on these build design contracts, and quite frankly, all we've heard is crickets, like I said last week. Crickets. There's no accountability, there's no transparency with these people. They do things on their own timing, and when they deem it fit to answer to us, the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. But not this team before you. This team has always responded to the call, always answered the charge. And this team is ready to lead again and bring us into the future. Our next speaker is none other than the political leader herself. Please help me welcome Sister Emmeline Pear.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I want to make a beg this afternoon that we change the protocol just slightly. And I want to just, before we go into the question and answers, because I know they're to make some comments there, but brothers and sisters, I want to invite Brother Jelani Glean and Sister Kate Lewis Peters to just bring you some greetings this evening, because I believe we want to ensure that you hear from them before we get to the question and answer segment. So Brother Glean, I'll invite you to bring some greetings.
Thank you, political leader. A pleasant good evening to everyone here, members of the head table, my fellow colleagues, you, our beloved audience who took the time off to show up here this evening, despite your busy schedule. I know some of you are preparing for Groovy Monarch semi-final tomorrow night. All right. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to come out. It shows that you are serious about the state of affairs of Grenada and the future of Grenada. And you have taken the time to come to discuss matters of importance, help make your contributions to a better Grenada and to our better Grenada plans for St. Patrick and the rest of the Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So I bring you greetings from St. Patrick West, your neighbor from across the street. And I just want to again thank you all for making that effort to come out. It is very important. We have to show up to be part of the conversation. And we have to contribute to the conversation if we want our young people to progress forward. I'm particularly interested in youth in sport, youth in agriculture, which I believe are two critical areas that is important and touches almost every family, every household in St. Patrick. And it is important for us to make our contributions there, because that is the avenues, the tools that we have available to keep our young people off the street, to keep them occupied, to train them and create opportunities that results in them having a business, a job, so that they can take care of themselves and their families. I also want to encourage you, please, be part of the conversation. Make your suggestions, make your contributions, ask your questions, seek your issues, express your frustrations. All of that is important in molding and framing. That's the hammer that we need to hit the iron, pounding against the anvil that is going to shape the better Grenada plan that is for you, for me, and for our children for the future. So thank you, have a good evening, and I look forward to engaging with you. And let me bring on the short boss.
Thank you very much, Jelani. And let me say a special good evening to every one of you here, recognizing the political leader, my colleague candidates, colleague MP, and all of you who are here to listen to the people's conversation. A special good evening to our young people who are showing up. They're not afraid to show up. Because we know that we are in an era of victimization where young people are afraid to show up to these conversations. And it's very important that we make the point that once it comes to youth development, Team NNP has invested more than any other administration. We created many opportunities for young people throughout the years by having them engage in a variety of programs that created pathways for employment, opportunities for higher education, and opportunities to start and maintain and manage their own small businesses. And when Team NNP gets back there, after the next election, we will do more for our young people. So we invite you to be part of the conversation. Tonight is about you and your future, and don't ever be afraid to speak the truth. I thank you. It's definitely my pleasure to be here to engage you.
Okay, thank you. So now I get to say a very warm good evening to Honorable Clarice Modeste-Cowan, Member of Parliament for St. Mark. And I want to especially recognize also all of the candidates who are here. We have Brother Nimrod Oliver, put your hands together for him. We have Sister Mana Charles, put your hands together for her. And of course at the head table, they've already been introduced. Brother Robert White, Sister Kate Lewis Peters, and of course Brother Jelani Glean. These are members of the winning Team NNP. And so we are here this evening because we want to continue the conversation. As the chairman would have said, or general secretary would have said to you, we have already passed our first draft of our manifesto. And that first draft was heavily informed by the conversations we've had with you individually and collectively. It was informed by the conversations we've had with our stakeholders throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. But we are given another opportunity, as he said, refining until we get to that best final document that we are going to present to the people of this country. Tonight we are here to talk about youth, and I'm anxious to hear from you. What are some of the things that you would like to see, particularly in St. Patrick, in Grenada on a whole, but St. Patrick particularly, as it relates to young people? But we also want to hear from you, what are the issues that young people around you are facing? What are the issues that those young people here, what are those issues that confront you, that you would like to draw to our attention so that we can ensure that the solutions and the recommendations you come up with, that they are featured in the People's Manifesto. And we look forward to that document. But I want to pick up from where Sister Kate made mention. Brothers and sisters, it is a proven fact that there's no administration that has served this country that has done as much for young people as the new National Party has done. This is not for debate. And there's been so many programs, there have been so many programs over the years through which so many young people themselves have testified that we don't even have to say what we have done. The young people themselves have testified, and they know. Many young people would tell you that through programs of our administration, they can say with confidence that we saved their lives through these initiatives and programs. Many would tell you the road that they were heading down until they got enrolled in a particular program that would have turned their lives around. Sometimes they refer to things that I don't even remember. But you know, I must make mention tonight, and I feel very proud, very, very humbled to have been part of the development of the new Imani program. Because that project has been beaten up so much by so many people that we sometimes lose sight of the fact of the thousands of young people holding major roles in this country, including medical practitioners, people who have served at so many different levels, teachers, nurses, doctors, people who have served at the community level, just because, as was said before, they got one chance, a second chance in some cases, through that program. And today, I say to you, we are prepared to go beyond Imani next time around. We are prepared to take it to the next level next time around. And that is why I want to say to you tonight, I told you I came here anxious to hear from you. Our priorities would be responding to the current issues that face our young people, the current challenges that face young people. So when I tell you, in this coming manifesto, for the first time in the history of this country, NNP is presenting a special housing program targeted at young people. I say to you, young people, get ready for what is ahead of you. But not just housing. We've heard you. We heard from you that you're competing with everyone else, and there are certain opportunities that you are missing out on. So we want to be targeted, even more targeted. So whether it's housing, small business development, we want to ensure that the young man, the young woman who has a dream, a passion, and who has what it takes to do well in business, we give them the necessary support. And that is what you can look forward to. So you would hear of our many plans, specifically for young people in the areas of housing, small business development. Let us talk about the creatives mentioned earlier. So many of our young people are not able to maximize on the benefits from their creative abilities. You're going to hear special projects mentioned in that particular area. How do we help you to be the best that you can be? The capital of creatives must be here in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Brothers and sisters, not just business, not just housing, not just support for the creatives. We are going to ensure that we reform our education system so that far more of our young people would be able to reach their fullest potential. We've heard from you the challenges. We've heard the areas of focus, and we are coming back. We are coming back as a new national party government when you elect us into office, because these are some of the priority areas. So tonight, we are here and we are anxious to hear from you. What are you experiencing as young people that you want us to give priority to? What are some of the young people in your communities experiencing that you want to see us address? And we would love to hear your ideas of how we can address these issues. God bless you. And we continue to work together to build a better Grenada, not just for some, but a better Grenada for everybody. God bless you.
Thank you, political leader. To everybody on the live right now, before we open the session for questions, I'm going to ask that you share, like, and ready your comments, because tonight we're going to take some suggestions and ideas from online as well. I will be monitoring online, and I'll be feeding those ideas and thoughts to the panel. Briefly, these are our guidelines for our conversation. Please be respectful, listen carefully, be brief, and keep it constructive. With that said, I open the floor. Before we do open, please join me in welcoming our previous chairman and political leader, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. All right, so without further ado, the floor is open for questions. By a show of hands, we'll be taking the questions and suggestions.
Good evening, everyone. I'm referring to the National Sustainable Development Plan 2020 to 2035. Now, according to the SWOT summary of Grenada, two of Grenada's strengths is its young population and regional and international partnerships. But two of Grenada's weaknesses is governance and institutional weaknesses, along with challenges in health and education. My question is, does NNP have any new plans in place to improve youth's education to help them improve academically?
Okay, so definitely, and I think you would have heard me a couple nights ago making mention of resetting that button as it relates to education reform, because I really do believe that has to be a top priority. But very critical, this is never going to happen. There's been several attempts. It's never going to happen not having all of our stakeholders on board. And that is going to be critical, ensuring that all of our stakeholders are on board. But I want to make that very important point. Only yesterday, I engaged with one of our former educators. And you know what she said to me, which is so true? Foundation must be strengthened. Foundation must be strengthened. If a child gets to secondary school and cannot read, there's a foundation issue. And so serious effort, serious resources must go into early childhood education and preschool education, ensuring that the prerequisites, and when they get into these lower classes, that, you know, we used to talk about reading, writing, arithmetic, and for some reason we tend to throw certain things out. We want to ensure the focus is in building a strong foundation that that child can grow and expand and nurture, be nurtured, but on a solid foundation. But the entire system, when we talk about skills development, when we talk about technology, I'm telling you, there is a plan as it relates to the reset, and we want all stakeholders, as we engage them, to get on board.
Don't be shy. By a show of hands, please raise your hands.
Youth skills development. What plans does the NNP have to upskill young people by providing training in the relevant skills needed to strengthen Grenada's workforce and meet the country's future labor demands?
I'm going to let Sister Kate add to that as well, but let me just start off by saying what were some of the things that we were doing when we were in government. And I'm happy you mentioned skills training, because this is so critical. But you know, you can spin top in mud and get nowhere if you don't have a serious plan. So when this administration came into office, we said to them that we've started piloting CVQs in secondary schools. So there are secondary schools in Grenada that was doing CVQ skilled areas at the CXC level. So we said to them, we were piloting, we've started expanding the skills training program at the primary school level. And so we said to this administration, the third thing, primary, secondary level, of course, support for TAMCC, but I want to speak to a very important intervention which the government has spoken about and has gotten nowhere far, which is centers for excellence. Now, this administration is bent on building new facilities. And we keep saying to them, we have existing facilities that you can expand, you can support to ensure that we continuously working on building the capacity of our young people. So I'll give you an example of what we did. In SAS, we invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in a program that was called Centers for Excellence. SAS, Westerhall Secondary, I don't remember the other two schools. But in the evening, after the students would have left, guess what? You use the resources in the school to train persons. So we had persons who were already in the job market. And I think I saw one of the persons who graduated from one of these programs. And he was doing carpentry. So he was in the construction sector, but he lacked certain skills. And he was able on an evening to go to a secondary school in Grenada up to about 7 in the evening, right? And to acquire a skill and to be certified regionally for that skill. And we are saying there was no need to lose 4 years on that program. And we are going to ensure that we expand these initiatives at the community level so that all of those skills that we are short of, people can go to a facility right there in walking distance and acquire a skill within the community. Sister Kate, I'm sure you want to add.
Yes, definitely. I must add to that because our team has always valued skills development, so much so that we established the National Training Agency to ensure that our people who are interested in certification at the national level, the NVQ, and the Caribbean level, the CVQs, the NTA was able to ensure that they receive those types of certification. As we prepare for the emerging markets, we have to ensure that we match the skills that we are moving into the future with together with what we want our young people to develop. And that is where the focus would be going forward, matching the skills so that they can be ready for the jobs of the new market, emerging technologies, the artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. These are the jobs for the future and for present day. So we have to ensure that we can get our young people upscaled or up to date with those skills. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. To the head table and Miss P and Miss Kisita Lewis and Gilani Glean and Robert White. I have a question to ask concerning about the crime and violence in the country with our youths, especially because right now, what really going on with our youths really is a lot of crime going on because at the end of the day, you don't have no program in place for the youths right now under this present government. So what I'm suggesting that NNP will bring back the Imani program, Project Fly, the youth bees and stuff. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much for your advice. And I'm sure you would agree that we are listening and we're certainly going to act on it. I grew up in an environment where, as a kid, there was a lot to do. And when I say a lot to do, not just home, I'm speaking of the extracurricular activities. There was the 4-H clubs, there was Boy Scouts, there were a lot of other groups and organizations that consumed the time of our young people. So that you learn discipline, you learn responsibility, people held you accountable, I remember there was something, as a scout, there was something referred to as Bob a job. Bob then was 25 cents. So you were required to go to the neighborhood and get jobs done. You know how much window I clean, how much door handle that I brasso, because I wanted to ensure that I made the most money and bring back to the scout group, because there was a reward for that, bragging rights. So I came back with $5. You know, 25 cents you had to get to make $5, right? But what that taught me was discipline and accountability. And some of that is lacking now. So we have to create the environment where our young people has those extracurricular activities. Another thing to me that is fueling the crime and violence is the lack of opportunities. So some children graduate from school and there is not enough opportunities in the job market. And you watch your partner down there driving a car or sporting a nice pants, and you home and you can't do that. Or worse yet, you get, as speaking as a male now, you get some young ladies pregnant, and you have two eyes watching at you who need food and clothing and shelter. You as a man need to provide that. And your dignity is affected because you cannot give that young lady that you got pregnant what she needs. So in the night when people sleeping, you're around the house. Or worse yet, in the day when they eye wide open, you're trying to rob them. And I'm not saying that to justify the action, but I'm saying that the lack of opportunities sometimes cause people to go down that direction. So the more we keep people engaged, the more we create opportunities for our young people, both male and female, the greater the chances of reducing the incidence of crime and violence. And these are things that we take seriously, and we certainly aim to reduce when we get into office.
Okay, so just to add, we must acknowledge the fact that the rise in crime and violence that we're seeing today amongst our young people is as a result of the neglect by this government. We must acknowledge that this government have removed all of the programs that were there to engage and give our young people the opportunity to develop and empower themselves. So, Team NNP understood very well that when our young people are not sufficiently engaged, they get frustrated. And we will ensure that this does not happen again when we get back into government. All of the programs that engage young people, empower them, and give them the opportunity to thrive will be returned at a higher level, refined, and better suited to the needs of our young people. So we will do that, and you will see that there will be a reduction in the crime and violence of our country.
Before we take the next question, I want to add, now that you guys brought up crime and education, our young men of this country are being left behind. What is the NNP intending to do to make sure we capture and help along these young men of our nation?
The Empower program catered to the young men of this country, ensuring that they were not left behind. A matter of fact, that they were in line with our young women. This program gave young men second chances, gave them the opportunity to develop skills. We partnered with private sector businesses so that our young people can be trained and eventually they fit into that space. Today, the programs like these no longer exist. But as I said, to ensure that our young men are up to par and they are not left behind, we will continue to seriously engage them so that they can develop and harness the skills that they already have. Ensure that we can tap into their creativity. And so, young men, the opportunities are there for you when Team NNP returns.
I'll just add to I'll just add to this by saying our grandparents always told us, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And that is what we understood. So when we saw young men on the block having nothing to do during the day, we felt that we had an obligation as a government to engage them. So people in here would tell you there are some blocks you pass and you couldn't find people. And today you pass and these blocks, they recruited new members. And I'm saying to us, we have regressed significantly over the last 4 years. It is a shame where we are right now, but New National Party, you know, as I said to you, there's no record that beats what we have done for young people, and the intention is to do even more when we get back into office.
Youth crime and public safety. What policy measures does the NNP have to reduce youth crime in Grenada, particularly gender-based violence, domestic violence, and other forms of criminal activities, while providing prevention, rehabilitation, and support programs for at-risk youths?
So that's a loaded one. But I'll speak first to the issue of youth at risk. Now, when you run a youth development program, you must identify the preventative measures and the response measures. So it's the reason why NNP had a program that took us to the prison, into the prison. And you're talking about how do you prepare these young people when they are released that they are positively engaged. So I can tell you, I could call names off my head of young people who came from the prison, went straight to GDB to sign up for support to start a small business. And guess what? I can think off my head again of these young people that I can think of, and they are doing extremely well after so many years because NNP understood that they needed a support to be able to thrive and to succeed, even if they made a mistake, even if they did something that took them off track, that we had that response mechanism. But let us talk about the rehabilitation center in Grand Bacolet. It was the NNP that said, we do not want our young people to be sent up to Richmond Hill. We want rehabilitative programs where they are separated and supported academically and otherwise. And these were initiatives. I mean, I'm afraid to even speak about the concerns as it relates to some of these programs now. It's going to take the whole night. We understood the cries of the young people. We understood the cries of parents. And our response was to hit the nail on the head. Of course, when you put out a net, you don't get every fish in the sea. But when you look at the number of people who would have graduated successfully from some of these initiatives, what I say to you tonight, we understand what these initiatives did for young people. So we have no other choice when we are elected back into office to expand and give far more opportunities to our young men and young women to ensure that a second chance is available. So even when we speak about academics, there are so many young people who dropped out of school for whatever reason. We brought them into programs, given them second chances, some of them permanently employed today and holding down good jobs because NNP gave a second chance. We never abandoned them. On the subject of crime and security, I'll just make this general statement. And I'll repeat from an acting commissioner of police who some couple years ago, after this administration came into office, he publicly said, when we look at the situation with crime, you have to know that crime is directly connected to what is happening economically on the ground. Not his exact words, but essentially that is what. The correlation between crime and poverty, the economics. And what we've seen over the last few years in this country, we cannot deny the fact, we cannot hide to say that quite obviously we have seen increased activities, criminal activities, and in many instances, a result of the economic situation in this country. And there's data to prove the connection. So it means that if you have to seriously address youth and crime, then you have to provide more opportunities to get them positively engaged. I have never seen this, a government come into office and reducing the opportunities for young people. Not by 1 and 2 and 3, but by thousands. How many thousands of young people were engaged through the Imani program? You complained and you came into office saying that they must be made permanent, that their salaries must be increased, and many of them are sitting home frustrated. Brothers and sisters, I'm saying to you, NNP has heard enough of the cries of our young people, and we are ready to respond to their situations.
The final part of your question spoke about gender-based violence, and this is a very important issue. As you know, we have seen situations in the past few months where we had our young people, young females, who were victims of gender-based violence. It didn't end well for them. And it is time that we move beyond marching on the streets just to raise awareness of gender-based violence. It is time that we bring the policies, the laws into the parliament that will see stricter measures that will be enforced against the perpetrators of these crimes. And that is what we need to do to stop or to reduce gender-based violence once and for all. Take the laws to the parliament.
And Sister Kate, I just want to add this, as she mentioned programs. Now, when we left office, Sister Clarice and others would recall this. There's a program called the Spotlight Initiative that was being implemented. Foreign funded, significant hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And that project was specifically targeted at gender-based violence and empowering women in our communities. The foreign support for this program has ended. And what we expected the government to do was to inject far more local resources into this initiative. And I'm not sure, I have not heard anything about this project. The laws that you're speaking about, there was financial support within that project, and there were laws drafted, right? Bills drafted that we are yet to see come into the parliament, and we believe the government has dropped the ball on this, and far more resources need to be invested in our women and protecting our women throughout this country.
I have a next question to ask again. That question is for Ms. Spear and Ms. Lewis. What I want to ask really about the youth in agriculture. When NNP get back in office, will they have that program training for young people for youth in agriculture and training them also for the job market?
I think Brother Glean is quite capable of handling that one. While he was not a member of the cabinet, I think he's well aware of our policies as it relates to youth and agriculture.
Thank you for the confidence, political leader. And that's an excellent question. Youth in agriculture is something that a lot of our young persons have struggled with over the past few years in particular. Getting access to lands, getting access to training. I think part of, and financing as well. I think a major part of the challenge for young people, and it doesn't matter if it's agriculture, fishing, a number of areas, even gender-based violence. I think what our young people want, our young men in particular, we want a pathway, we don't just want certification. We need a pathway that is going to take us from where we are to the training that we need, to the certification that we need, in some cases, the licenses that we need, the access to the finance and resources that we can get to start our small businesses and to assist us in, our initiatives with our farming that is going to enable us to achieve what we want. But it doesn't stop there. What if we get a brilliant young farmer? He has access to land, he produces, and when he produces, where does that produce go? So we also have to look at, our organizations like the MNIB. We have to seek markets. So when a young person gets into farming, he understands what is required of him, what is the requirement of the government, where the access to the resources is going to be, and most importantly, where the money is going to come from in the market when he produces his stuff. So from where we sit with our policies, we understand that the support is in training, the support is in equipment, sourcing, and so forth. In some cases, we may have to pool resources. So for example, we may not be able to give 10 men in one community all the sprayers, weed eaters, and all the stuff that they need, but we can have a grouping of that 10 of them can share. And therefore, it becomes economical and affordable for them, and they can get the job done. They also need to know where their market is going to be and where their monies are coming from. So access to places like GDB and so on will help in terms of the resources. And there can be a fund directly for young persons getting into agriculture and agribusinesses. Some people, again, may want to get into the agribusiness side and not necessarily the agriculture production side in terms of fruits and vegetable production, but may want to get into chocolate and pepper sauce and seasoning and that type of thing. They also need to have their share of the market. And right here in St. Patrick in particular, we not just want to produce for ourselves in St. Patrick, we want to produce for the rest of the nation, the hotels, the restaurants, and we want to export too. Thank you.
I want to add something to the issue of agriculture. I know that's your lead, Brother Glenn, but I planted a thing or two already. So, one of the challenges that not just the youth experience with agriculture is the issue of predial-lasny. That is a disincentive for planting. I mean, I planted a couple corn the other day, and I'm no big farmer, but I felt so good seeing that, hey, boy, I put something on the ground and the thing grew. And then I passed one day and I see 10 of them countries cut down before I even get to taste it. You know what that feels? You feel ripped, you feel robbed. And if I only speak now about 10 corn, I could imagine farmers who have experienced it on a larger scale. So how do you treat with the issue of predial-lasny? I know that we are going to seriously look into it, and what has happened before, or what exists now, is that the police has, they have some of them labeled as officers in the predial-lasny division, and they have a vehicle and so. But how do you prevent, as opposed to how do you prosecute after somebody would have stolen your stuff? And I believe that the area of technology needs to be employed in farming, in the sense that you now get the farmers, and the technology is there, to put cameras in their fields. Now, there was a time when the limitation was Wi-Fi access. Now some of the cameras are outfit so that you can get what do you call it? There's it's solar, yes, but you have the chip. And you put the chip in it, and your farm could be wherever else it is, and you can monitor it. So if somebody knows that your farm is monitored that way, even if they try to damage the cameras, you can still possibly get them. So now you're faster on this, you're prosecuting. The young people are certainly versed on the technology. They'll be happy to farm knowing that they can have their farm, properly monitored and so. That's one. Now, at the other issue on the productive side of agriculture and the issue of the market, the question is, how much stats do we have that can tell us what we need to really produce for a local market, one, and two, to be able to have enough to export? In short, what do we consume, in what amounts, what time of the year is the market higher, when does it peak and so? So that farmers just get into farming because they see John have melon down the road and he made a $40,000 last time, so I planted melon too because I want to make 50, right? There's not enough structure. So now we're talking about stats. We need to capture the information on how we eat, what we eat, and in what quantities. Let me tell you an experience I had. I have a very good friend who had oversupply of melons. And now I, with my bright self, say, let me tell you, I will call Sandals, and I'll get Sandals to take a few £100 from you, right? And it was intended to be a one-off thing because, well, maybe not one-off, but at least to satisfy the demand or that the supply that he had then, that he didn't have market for. And I called Sanders, and it took me about 3 weeks to get to speak to the purchasing manager. And he said to me that he was not necessarily interested in even having a conversation with me at all. Why? Because there were many before me, and none of them could guarantee consistent supply. So, Mr. White, if you cannot guarantee me consistent supply, let's end the conversation here. No, that was the end of that, because I couldn't guarantee him consistent supply. The issue with Bobby or farming is how do we consistently supply our market in what amounts, and we need to be able to guarantee that, especially the hotels, and so they would take from us. But they buy container loads of food from outside because when they have a guest, they can't say, but the farmer didn't bring the tomato, or we couldn't get the eggs, so you can't eat eggs this morning. They cannot say that to our guests. So they need the guarantee that they will have the food to supply the guests when they need it. And that's where our marketing board is important too. Now we don't hear anything about marketing board. We heard it was going to be revamped. Well, revamped probably meant another word for closed down altogether and never come back. They're producing potato. Well. So the point is, sisters and brothers, that agriculture can still continue to be the mainstay of our economy, or one of the pillars that our economy is based on. But we have to get our young people, or farmers in general, but our young people could do well in collecting the stats, the technologically savvy, in helping to outfit our farms so that Pretty Elastic could be on the decline, because if somebody come in the farm, they catch you. And we need to look at the issue of marketing board and how they market well, so that the farmers, they can take that pressure off the farmers. They don't necessarily have to go to the consumer, but they go through marketing board, the guaranteed prices for their stuff, and everybody could do better in farming. Thank you.
Good night to everyone, and good night to the head table. Tonight, I want solution. I want answers as well. I want to be talking about young people. In Woodford, we're now doing some construction down there. And they also have the asphalt plant. And the people have been affected down there. Young people can't move as they ought to. I want to know what solution or what you all will do, because Parliament is coming up soon, to put measures in place, because even the asphalt plant affecting the people down there. So I was calling on Sister Kate, Honorable Kate Lewis, Honorable Emlyn Pear, and Honorable Dr. Kit Mitchell. You all in Parliament. We want you all to work for solution for the people of Woodford. That is my take tonight.
I'll just say we hear you and we hear the people of the community there. And I just want to say on behalf of Brother Dabrio, he's extremely concerned about your concerns are his concerns also. And we are going to be engaging the community again very soon. And of course, get an opportunity for further engagement on the issues that are affecting you right now.
Good night. I also want to say good night to everyone. I want to know why young fellas getting in gambling, fighting, cursing, and killing one another. I want to know why young fellas getting in gambling, thieving, robbing, and fighting in one another and killing one another.
And I'm going to ask you, do you have an idea or suggestion that you want to share of how we can address the problems that you just mentioned? What is one thing that you think you would like to see NNP do when we get back into office?
Well, what I want to see when NNP get back to power, all them youth man and the gambling and smoking and things, to get like a work and thing and then help them out.
And just to say, as he mentioned employment, the New National Party has a record. You remember when we returned into office in 2013, the unemployment rate was over 40%. And you know that the NNP would have brought that down to less than 50%, right? And so I'm saying by 50% or more. The exact figure off my head is not coming, but I want to say to you, I'm sure it was just over 20%. And so we have a record when it comes to unemployment and issues affecting young people, and we are going to continue to create additional opportunities, not just for young people, but unemployed people in general, because we believe that we have an obligation as government to put people to work by creating the enabling conditions and the opportunities for them to succeed.
And just to add to that, the government would have promised to address, and that is actually one of their promises, to address youth unemployment. And I want to state here that is a promise not kept. Youth employment is still as high as when the NNP was or left office, or is higher. I'm being corrected by the panel. It is currently higher because it is the New National Party that always strove or strived to bring it down. I have one.
So I would just like to add here, again, pathway. When our playing fields are taken away from the community for more than a year just to resurface, when there is no lighting in playing fields like plains, when our community centers are taken away for more than a year to store materials from government, to house a police station, and our young people don't have the avenues in sports, they don't have the opportunities in agriculture and training to get employment, they are left on the block, and like our political leader pointed out very early, idle hands leaves them open to be the devil's workshop. And therefore you find them getting involved within their idle time, being influenced by other people who, by the way, are unemployed, and also involved in drugs and crime and violence, and that is where they get themselves taken off on another part. So again, it's the holistic approach, and that is why it is so important. And I think, there are two people in the room tonight, I think that should take a bow, and we should give a round of applause too, because this is not the first time we've had to engage young people in Grenada getting involved in crime and violence and gang affairs and that type of thing. And under the leadership of Dr. the Honorable Kate Mitchell, and spearheaded by our very own political leader, NNP, who led, when we were going through an era of crime with gangs and so forth, and eradicated gangs essentially out of Grenada, and I think we should give them a round of applause and acknowledge them.
Good night. What is your plan to make higher education and vocational training more affordable and accessible?
We believe that every student, every young person should have an equitable access to education. And that is why when we governed before, we ensured that those who could not have afford the education were given the financial liberty to do so. It was not a one-size-fits-all. And we still believe that. We believe that the people, the families who can't afford to pay the tuition fees, who can't afford to pay the transportation fees, and who cannot afford to provide a daily meal for students to access their education should be given that opportunity at all levels. You see what happens when you pay one part of it, you remove access from certain young people. And that is the problem we are experiencing right now. So you have a government that says it's free tuition for all. And while we don't have a problem with that, we are concerned that not everybody could afford the other parts, the components that makes tuition or education fair and accessible to all. That is why we said an equitable access. Vocational studies, very important. We have invested heavily in ensuring that skills development is given top priority, and going forward, we will invest more. Thank you.
I just want to add also that when you look around, and I'm sure every constituency can speak to this, in the last week, I had 2 parents in my constituency referencing, in one case, their daughter recently graduated as a medical doctor, and in another case, their daughter to graduate this year from medical school. And these are only 2 examples in one constituency of 2 young ladies supported by an NNP administration to become medical doctors. But you know, the main point that I want to make here is that we know that our party in government takes special care of people who cannot take care of themselves. But you know what I love about it is how we empower people, young people coming from these families, to come back and support and help their parents and their siblings. And I believe this model continues to build stronger communities and better families. I had to say this when we speak about higher education, the opportunities that NNP has given to young people in this country, throughout this country, to further their education, and they are making valuable contributions to our society today.
Yes. It's a form of ticklish question. As it relates to the Samaro agreement, which will affect young people in some way or the other, or in some areas, what will the NNP do in relation to that agreement? Thank you.
I want to say one thing that the NNP will never subscribe to, which is a statement made by the Prime Minister of this country on this particular matter when it first surfaced. And his words were, morality is a private matter. NNP does not subscribe to that view. They are standards of our society. They are things that our society is known for. And there are things that we have to protect as it relates to the morality of our society, right? And so I'm saying to you this evening that as it relates to this document that was signed, that the government initially said they were not aware of, and that's the level of governance we have in this country, important documents being signed, having serious implications for this country. And a government minister would say that he's not aware, or he was not aware that it was signed without his authority. But a very fundamental point that I want to make, and it's something I don't think we normally speak to very much in this country. You hear the conversation generally in the United States and other developed countries. Our party stands for something, and there are principles that guide our organization. It is why we are defined as center-right. So there are some boundaries that we don't cross over. We are not a party that believe anything anybody wants to do, they're free to do it. We believe there must be standards. There must be things that guide our society. We are known as a society of values. And so we have to protect the values of our society. Because guess what? If we don't, we are going to leave a nation that our children would hold us accountable for, that they'll be disappointed in us for the things that we support that does not match the values of a Grenadian society. And so I say to you, we have serious problems with that agreement and what it's promoting, and we are not surprised. We were not surprised when the government of Grenada attempted to pass legislation giving a 12-year-old the right to make decisions about their sexual and reproductive health. All of this comes back to this agreement. And so we are saying any serious government in office has a responsibility to protect the citizens of the country. And that is why when you're loose as it relates to standards and you believe anybody and everybody can just do what they want, it's very easy now to decide that a child can just do anything that that child wants to do. So we do not support the signing. We did not support the signing, and we are still very much concerned. And as I say to you, when we get into office, all of these agreements, we would have a responsibility on behalf of the people to review them. We are not in government now, so we can't say to you, this is what it is and this is what exactly is going to happen. We have a responsibility when we get there to review and to look at all that the government would have signed off on, most of which we are not privy to. So much things being done with no consultation with the opposition, which we believe is wrong. And so all I can say to you is those kinds of agreements we are going to review on entering office.
Yeah, my concern, Mr. Young Youth say, yeah, my concern is young youths train. I was in the empower thing. I train to construction and other things, and I hold on to my job, and I'm still working. I'm with it under NNP, and I'm still working. I'm train sir, I'm doing other things. Young youths to hold on to the job and thing. That's my concern. Amen.
And we say congratulations, great job.
Hello. Good night, Miss Pierre. Good night, Mr. White. Good night, Mr. Glenn. Now, the first question that I wanted to ask is that it's about young people on the block which they don't have nothing doing, but somebody give it out already. But my real question that I want to ask is about the development of St. Patrick. St. Patrick, as you know, St. Patrick is not part of Grenada. Many of us want to go to Carrico or St. Vincent or wherever country. You have to leave St. Patrick and go in St. George for boat to go. And the boat had to leave down in the south and come up in the north. And we, the people of St. Patrick, if we want to go to Carrico, especially when we want to go in Carrico for carnival and this kind of thing and them, we have to go down in St. George for yacht to go to St. Patrick, to Carrico. So what we are saying that I believe that we deserve to have a port in St. Patrick. And when we have a port in St. Patrick, that brings an income for St. Patrick, all in supermarket, restaurants, and bar, whatever. When people come out wherever country, they come to Grenada, come in our port, they come and spend money. And I myself want to go to Carrico and then kind of country on them, but knowing that you don't have a port in St. Patrick, I can't see the way to go down quite down St. George's. So I'm waiting forward to see that we have a port in the tongue of Tortoise in St. Patrick. Thank you very much and good night.
I would say like my grandfather would have said, you well speak. So I'm going to ask the St. Patrick representatives on the team if they would wish to add.
Yeah, bro, Brother Glenn, I'm sure that you would want to add something too, but, you know, bro, we laughed at it, and I agree that it in some way came out humorous. But even while we were laughing, I felt pain. And I'll tell you why. Now, I agree with the fact that we need to improve interconnectivity between our islands, and specifically between Grenada and Carriacou. And I identify well with coming from Carriacou and the boat pass close to the shores there, and you're watching Saturday there, and I had to go all in tongue to come back up. I mean, that is painful. On a Sunday evening when I didn't have a car, so I had to go and look for a ride up. And I see buses and other things passing close to the shore that I know I could have get a ride with, but they're on the boat, right? So I understand the pain, but I'll give a story here. Bear with me, it might be a little lengthy. But to make this point about this particular port project, in 2006-07 thereabout, I was part of a St. Patrick's Businessmen Association that conceptualized a port project for St. Patrick that included a small hotel, that included boat building facilities, a restaurant, and the reclamation of some lands down by where the breakwater project is now located. And that project was actually, well, the government then at the day, the NNP, vested some of the lands there in the St. Patrick's Businessmen Association. And we conceptualized that project, did an environmental impact assessment, and started looking for funding for that project. Long story short, Brother Lalsin, Kenny Lalsin, who was the chairman of that particular organization, he was invited, because we went to the government and said, this is what we want to do. And he was invited on a trip to China with a delegation of the government then, and had conversation with the Exim Bank of China. And they came down here and viewed a couple projects, this one included. And they identified that, listen, this is a project we want to work with. And I was part of the delegation, sitting in Flamboyant, hearing the greatest news that I've heard about St. Patrick's. The Chinese said, we are going to fund the project to the value of $80 million US. Unfortunately, the NNP lost the election in 2008. The NDC came into office, and we all know what happened, right? They discontinued the project. The grapevine said that they felt this was too much money to spend at that location, so they wanted to redistribute the monies around different projects around the island. The Chinese say, joke all they're making. We ain't taking you on all with this, right? Now I'm saying that we got that close, bro, right? You could have been riding a boat from here to Carriacou. And that would help to develop, inter-island trade. I mean, people now from the eastern side of the island don't have to go out to St. George's, Grenville side, you come down here quickly on a Sunday morning. That would create some economic activity for St. Patrick as well. So one of the things that is close to my heart, and certainly I've had discussion with our parliamentary, boy, I'm speaking in future terms, with our candidate for St. Patrick West, is resuscitating or revisiting the idea of that port, my brother. So it is something that we know should happen, it's something that we'd like to happen, and it's something that we'll definitely work toward to making sure it happens. Jelani, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
So this particular project, it's one of the projects that keeps coming up the more we speak to our people around the constituency on the west and both in the east as well. Brother Robert and I have discussed that at length, And we've given our commitment to working along with our colleagues as we go forward so that when we get into government, we'll be working together to ensure that we can make this a reality to the best of our ability. Now, I would also like to add to that, in terms of development on a whole, in St. Patrick in particular, when you look at the track record of the NNP, it is undeniable. And I'll just name a few. The Surtees Bus Terminus, the Surtees Fish Market, the Surtees Vegetable Market, the Surtees Abattoir. The Greater St. Patrick Road Project, phase 1 completed. No other phase has been in touch since then. The wing at McDonald College, the technical wing at McDonald College. There is more. There's a new hotel that is under construction now at Livera, the Grenada Resort project at Livera. So we have a track record of always investing in not only our rural communities, but in St. Patrick. And I will challenge you to look around at any other infrastructure that we have in St. Patrick and ask yourself, what have any other party contributed to the development of St. Patrick outside of all the talk? There's a lot of talk and no action, no visible structure. And so you could have the confidence that a new national party team will continue to invest and work hard with St. Patrick to ensure that we have the development that we need.
I have two final questions for the night. My first question is, while we're on St. Patrick's, is that we know St. Patrick's to be a place known for culture and also known for historical sites. What development and plans do the NNP administration have to make St. Patrick's a tourist destination? Because to me, the people of St. Patrick's and the area of St. Patrick's has a lot to offer as it relates to putting Grenada out there, in a sense. And then
So thank you for that excellent question. And I feel energized because now everybody's talking St. Patrick, so I'm happy. And I know Sister Mayana is turned up because she's also interested in tourism product for the neighboring parish of St. Mark. But in St. Patrick here, we do have wonderful things to offer, similar to St. Mark. We do have waterfall on Mount St. Catherine, but what we do have is a rich history. Amerindian historical sites, European things that have remained from slavery, like steps to mount horses and street lighting poles. And we have the plantations and the plantation houses, the slave pens, the Carib stones, the hieroglyphic Amerindian burial ground. And we can go on and on and on and on. And therein also lies the opportunity for a lot of our young people. In addition to that, we now also speak in Port St. Patrick, which gives us an opportunity now, rather than have tourists having to come by bus to St. Patrick that takes hours and along roads that right now are in the worst condition I've ever seen them in. You can get tourists up here, a ferry with 250 tourists up here within 30, 45 minutes. You know, that's a much better tourist experience for our tourists. But at the same time, we have to take some responsibility for developing our tourism product ourselves. We have to look to get our young people involved in developing some of these sites. And of course, they're going to require training. They're going to require some resources to invest in that so that we can now create a total package so that when our visitors come, they have a great experience, there's a great cultural exchange, they want to come back, they become ambassadors not only for Grenada, but for St. Patrick as well. And of course, a new National Party administration is bent on supporting training, as we've mentioned before, creating that pathway to not only start a business and get the services, but ensure that there is monies coming in, that there is a livelihood and a career behind that we could sustain ourselves and our families and create wealth for our future. The St. Patrick that we're building is a St. Patrick to generate wealth, not just take care of poor and needy.
Two more questions.
Chair, if you just allow me to add very quickly, I think this is important. One of the ways that you know that a government is serious, not just talking about rural development and developing tourism in St. Patrick and St. Andrew, etc., is by the policies, the decisions that are made. So if you look at what has happened over the years with the NNP and the serious investment in infrastructure in the northern parts of this country, it tells you that our interest is in development and sustainable development in these communities. But I want to flag something I'm sure most people in this room don't know. The NNP in the last term in office took a policy decision that it wanted to ensure that it's creating the enabling condition for more investment in rural communities as it relates to tourism. And one of the decisions that the government would have taken was that more incentives would be offered to businesses that are willing to invest in the northern part or the rural parts of the country. So whether it be additional incentives, concession, for example, we took these decisions because we wanted to give a reason to those who wanted to invest, but they feel St. Patrick is too far, St. Andrew is too far, St. Mark is too far, and we say it's okay, we are going to provide additional support. And that is why, for example, it's not coincidence that you have a hotel being built right now in St. Patrick. It wasn't a coincidence that you have 2 hotels recently being built in St. David under the new National Party's administration. There was an intention to strengthen tourism in rural communities, ecotourism, village tourism, etc. Sad to say, look back at the last 4 years. Can you name anything that has been done to further the work that the new National Party has started in this regard? Absolutely nothing.
My final question is, what is the NNP plan for agriculture regarding the use of drone technology? Specifically, 1, how does the NNP plan to improve farmers' access to agricultural drones and provide the necessary training to use the technology effectively? And part 2 to that question is, beyond drones, what other modern technology does the NNP plan to introduce to improve agricultural productivity, strengthen food security, and encourage more young people to pursue career in farming?
Again, that's a loaded one, right?
Just before you go, Jelani, I would also encourage you, don't leave tonight without sharing some suggestions and ideas to do with the question that you just asked. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So that's another loaded one. So I'll deal with the first part first, in terms of the drone technology. So currently the Ministry of Agriculture has invested in some of that technology. So what we would want to do is build on it. Currently they're looking at spraying and applying fertilizer, that type of thing, using drone technology. Now we have to ensure that there is enough consultation and there is enough support for farmers across the entire country, including Carriacou and Petit-Martinique, right? So we will build on that capacity. That technology is also, if it's good to spray, it's good to look as well. So it's also a technology that you can use to assist with periodial listening. So persons who, often masquerade as hunters and hunting crops instead of animals, and sometimes they hunt animals that don't belong to them. You have the infrared technology that you can use at night, that the police officers no longer have to go and track you through the bush at night and so forth. They can set up the drone. It tells them exactly where you are, where you're coming out, and they could just wait for you right there. We'll catch you red-handed. So that's the type of technology we want to see and go in terms of that. In terms of the production, it's not only now about empowering extension officers, but also the farmer themselves, that you don't sometimes always have to wait or call on the extension officers. There are apps on your phone right now that you could download that you can just take a picture or scan your crops, and it'll tell you what it is missing, what nutrients it needs, what are the sources of the nutrients, what type of disease is affecting it, what is the treatment for the disease, what is the recommended chemicals. So you don't even have to wait for an extension officer to come to you, right? Or the farmers themselves can be provided with that type of technology. Now again, awareness, training, consultation, all of that is important because no man is an island, and we believe in partnership as a policy. We believe in partnering with everybody involved. So of course, there's going to be some cross boundaries between Ministry of Agriculture, for example, Ministry of Environment, that deals with the environment, what type of chemicals used, how is disposed, is it the right type for us and our people, not polluting our waters, for example. So you don't want a drone past spring and then somebody else have to deal with, effects from the water supply that is now being contaminated and that type of thing. So we have to look at all the, criteria and so on and guidelines that would go along with that. But I believe that we move trending in the right direction, and the policies and the history of this party supports this type of movement, and I believe our young people have nothing to worry about.
Good night to everyone. I am no longer a youth, but I have a question that I would like to ask. At present, the transportation system, public transportation system, is, I should say, very, very bad in some areas. And St. Patrick in the north, I think it is rather worse than up to Grove. Now, persons who work in St. George have some serious problems, especially where the employer does not provide access to get home, especially in the nights, and persons who would have maybe in the hotel industry. So I would like to ask, what steps will our new national party take to address the issue regarding the poor transportation, public transportation system that we are now experiencing? And I just want to let us, I know the road is bad, it might be a deterrent. We spoke about the sea as an alternative. But probably, there are other mechanisms that we can put in place, not just the public transportation system, but some other form of access or better transportation that we can use, the public can use in order to make it to home, especially when you do not work the normal 8 to 4 hours. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. And I can very much connect with you on it because I have a son who has not recently graduated too long ago, about a year or so ago from TAMCC. And the 2 years at TAMCC, he had a trying time getting home. He would get home 8 o'clock at night, after 8, because he has to literally fight for a bus at the terminus to get home on a daily basis. So I know what they go through. And some of the stories that he's given me is really against even his own conscience to have to compete with people who have babies, people who are pregnant, who are elderly, trying to get home in that regard. But one of the things the new National Party has done and in building the Better Grenada plans is that we've gone through extensive dialogue and consultation with the Grenada Bus Association, also with employers, and currently a model is being worked on together in partnership with the Bus Association that is going to target specifically this problem for the rural parishes in particular, that we're going to look to alleviate this to the best of our ability. Now, we understand that there's a transport board currently that keeps on piloting programs, and nobody has any idea where that plane is landing because it's not resulting in any relief for our people. And when I say our people here, I want us to understand, because I know exactly where she's coming from. We have to understand this is about our children who are at TAMCC or maybe schooling in the secondary schools in St. George's. We have to understand this is about our females and our workers who are working in the south and have to travel, or construction workers on the back of trucks because they have to take that ride because they wouldn't get a bus to get home in the afternoon. We're talking about our elderly who have to go for healthcare in the general hospital, and some of them have to leave there late at evenings. Our young mothers who are going there to check on, do their follow-ups, and oftentimes leave St. George's late. So once you get into that 5, 6 o'clock area, you're not getting back into St. Patrick until around 8:30 at night. So we do feel that. We do thank you for the question, and we will continue to work with our Employers Association and the Busmen Association in that regard.
Just to add one thing here, when we met with the Trade Union Council, it was one of the major concerns raised as well. And just to highlight the conversation, it was quite enlightening, the Bus Association, because sometimes we look at this issue and we can tend to think it's very simple and straightforward. And when you heard from them, the reason they themselves were not even interested in night transportation, in many cases, they were concerned about their very lives, the risk, security risk presented. And that is why this matter is something that we are approaching in a collaborative way. It must involve national security, it must involve bus association, trade union, employer, etc. And we intend to have a very collaborative approach to address this very serious problem.
I have one more question to ask, that's the last question. Concerning about the seaweed that's going on right on the island, I want to know what NNP have in store for the seaweed, especially.
What I can say very quickly, because I recognize the signal that we need to wrap up, what I can say very quickly is that when we left office, there was a serious engagement with one of our friendly governments as it relates to this particular problem. During the campaign, we made reference to some of the work that already started in terms of partnership with external organizations as it relates to addressing it. So we shared some of those conversations and decisions that were already in progress. The government said, the government now, they were in opposition then, said they have a better solution and that they know how to get this done, you know, with the stroke of a pen. And they spoke about the nets, they spoke about so many other things, and I am hoping that the government, as a matter of fact, I can speak to my own constituency and St. Andrew Southwest. Exactly what we were doing in 2022 is what's being done now. People are manually picking up the seaweed, trucks are coming to take it. This is the government that said they had the solution. 4 years after, we have not seen anything different. But we would pursue aggressively, how do we ensure the byproducts that can come from the seaweed? What can we do in terms of partnering? There's an organization, and I'll end with this, it is so sad, because I'm aware of information of a particular country and particular individuals who have been pursuing this government for the last 4 years. For the last 4 years, to engage this administration exactly what you asked to solve this problem. And they are very disappointed that they have not been getting the kind of response and the kind of engagement from the government. We see this as something that must be addressed in a very serious way, and we are disappointed with what has been done over the last 4 years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the panel. A round of applause again, please. At this point in time, I would like us to sit in silence to honor the life of the world-famous cricketer. No. I'm finding the words to describe the legend that he was. I know clearly who he is. I went to cable. World-class cricketer, hardworking, elevated the game of cricket, brought West Indies to the highest of heights before the other 3Ws took it and ran with it and took it higher. Please, let's sit in silence for Sir Garfield Sobers. May he rest in eternal peace. At this point in time, I want to give the mic to our previous chairman and political leader, the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell.
I want to just look back at you all. Very briefly, two things. A brother mentioned that he expected us to do something about Reno and the problems in that area, in Mondo area, in that section with the problem with the roads. And said he expects us, those of us in Parliament, well, I still have a few months there still. So, I just want to be clear. The Parliament does not run the government. Just want to be very clear. So we can't come here and promise you, but we will get Reno to do what they're supposed to do. It's clear Reno has a relationship with the government. And whatever they're doing clearly cannot be termed illegal in the sense that they get the authority of the government. So we have to deal with the government. I hope we get it very clear, colleagues. Sometimes we let government escape from the responsibility. It is very clear that Reno has a strong relationship with the government and is doing what the government tells them to do. And I think that must be clear. So the parliamentarians like us can raise issue in Parliament. We can do so. And it's a right for us to do so. But that wouldn't change the price of cocoa. Because you know the Prime Minister you have is a little dictator. He does whatever he wants to do. And he doesn't even discuss it with his own cabinet. His own team is afraid of him, apparently. I don't know what they're afraid of. But they appear so. But we just have to do what we have to do. We are the voices of the people, and we will continue to express those voices going forward. The second point I want to raise is this, that I had a lot of very good questions here tonight. Just listening the initiative and the questions being asked, and I think that good sign, the people are involved. But remember one thing, NNP is not just come there, you know. NNP has 40-something years of record. In other words, when you take a chance to vote for the NNP, you're not taking a chance, you know. It's like how we take a real gamble the last time in 22. Because 40-something years of service. And if you check NNP's history, every time the government of the NNP came into office, after 4 or 5 years, you can see significant things that were done and achieved. Because NNP is a party from the bowels of the people. So no matter who is leader at any given time, when NNP gets into office, things happen. Not anything like you see going on now. Good things happen. Right? The first NNP was not led by me. It was led by Herbert Blaze. I was just a minister of government as a minister of works. But there was significant achievement in that 5 years. So when I took over the leadership of NNP, we spent 5 elections, 3 times 15 seats. But every time, the people would not have voted us and given us 15 seats if there wasn't significant improvement in the 5-year term. That's why they gave us. But in 22, they say they get tired. Every day they hear Keith Mitchell and NNP. Give somebody else, give that young man a chance. He look nice. Yeah, and he talk nice, he dress nice, he a lot of suits. So they vote for that. But man, head hurting them now. So when you're going back to NNP, it's a new leader, but it's a team. It's going to work with the leadership, whoever the leader is. So concentrate on NNP with its leadership, because NNP will consult with the people. NNP does not make decisions like the one man that exists now, that never in Grenada, is always abroad, but he's governing Grenada from outside the country. And nobody's saying a word. I'm sure if Keith Mitchell was doing that, you'd have heard noise. You'd have heard noise. Man thieving left, right, and center, you'd have heard nothing. But NNP go find out for us. Good night, sisters and brothers. I love every single one of you.
I just want to reiterate the points of Dr. Mitchell, and I've heard these comments outside. We do not have a presidential elections in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We have a first-past-the-post system. I always like to ask the question when we do these meetings, when last have you seen your prime minister in your constituency? You don't know him. You have never seen him here, correct? But you've seen Brother White, and you've seen Brother Glean. They are present and active in your community because they care what happens in St. Patrick's East and in St. Patrick's West. I want to end tonight by giving 2 suggestions, because Brother White, I believe, is the candidate responsible for culture. I want to suggest that in relation to the creative arts, at least, especially what Brother White is known for, that we look at investing in a facility that will allow young people and people interested in that part of creative art, be it theater, acting, poetry, of that sort, in those realms, that a facility somewhat like an Apia theater be developed and built so that there's a place to train and grow and develop that industry in Grenada. My second suggestion would be in relation to what was discussed earlier in terms of young people and specifically single mothers. Early on in my career, I would have been asked to do some pro bono work in the children's court. And what I would have noticed is that a lot of single mothers are struggling to care and take care of their children while they are at work. To assist with that, or because the lack of it is not there, they take their children to their jobs often, and the child does not get the ample rest or sleep to attend school the next day. And therefore, when they go to school, they're either tired, frustrated, angry, and they lash out. I therefore want to suggest that we develop our community centers in such a way that will assist in the aftercare of our next generation. This will enable our single mothers and our community to feel assured that their child is not wandering on the block, gambling, committing crimes, but they are in safe custody of the community, that the community is who's taking care of them and looking after them. I want to suggest that we get back to the community raises a child, that the village raises its children. Brothers and sisters, this brings us to the end of the third installment of the People's Conversation. Give yourself a round of applause. You have been excellent tonight. You have asked the questions, particularly in relation to St. Patrick's East and in St. Patrick's at large. We welcome you. Please look out for the next date of the conversation. People of St. Patrick's East, thank you for your hospitality. The next one may not be anywhere close to here, but we do encourage you to tune in on the live and ask the questions in relation to that topic. Please have a safe journey home. Thank you.